Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Be a Movie Snob. We're glad you're here. My name's Seth, and I'm joined by the amazing
Mariah.
Patrick. Oh, Mariah. Oh, yeah. Little fake there. A little duck and fake.
Zinged.
Oh, man.
I appreciate that.
And the punctual Mariah. There we go. We're switching up today, folks. I'm your host, Seth, and we are here. We are How to Be a Movie Snobs. It's our quest to become movie snobs, one snobby movie at a time, or one maybe snobby movie at a time. Depends on what week it is, folks. But we are in season 3, and we are in the middle of our top 10 series. Recently, we've been picking movies from our top 10 lists of all time and introducing them to each other. If you missed the weeks before, we went through the movie Hero from mainland China, which was my movie of choice. We went from Pan's Labyrinth, which was Mariah's choice because she's dark and creepy, but yet somehow artistic and sweet. That's not bad, actually, is it? Little known fact.
Pretty accurate.
Really hidden underneath there.
Layers.
Through all the gore and blood.
Way deep down.
Way deep down. And Pat's big surprise top 10 list, not his top 10, but spoiler alert, top movie of his list of all time, Arrival. Very, I don't know if it's snooty or weird pick, but very, very off the normal track of picking top 10s. So, folks, we were going around because Patrick started us off. So, guess what? We're back to Patrick, and we have a new movie this week. If you are watching, you probably already see the title, but or if you see me, maybe I gave it away. I thought we were dressing up.
I hope you did.
I thought we were dressing up, but apparently I was the only one dressing up. So
I missed the memo
that's
again.
awkward. Super awkward.
We said wear clothes, and I think you took that.
Yeah.
Right.
Further.
Guys, I wore the clothes of the movie. It just makes sense. Pat, you want to give us a little intro of this movie and kind of why it's your top 10 without giving away the movie? Good luck.
Well, I'll say it is directed by one Wes Anderson.
Already
It
cheating. That's too much information already. Whole TMI.
It is a movie about family and love and redemption and tennis and so many things, really. Falconry.
Drums. That's just one character. That's just one character.
Yeah, exactly.
4 artist renditions of your sister.
Yeah.
Again,
it's
one
number
character
3 in Wes Anderson's filmography.
of major films. That's right.
Co-written by Wes Anderson and one Owen Wilson.
Barely, but yes.
I mean, you know,
Allegedly.
as far as IMDb is concerned.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think we just go with it is Royal Tenenbaums.
It's the Royal Tenenbaums, folks. This movie is the beginning of Wes Anderson being very Wes Anderson-y. And it's maybe, we'll get into that right away. But before we get too far into the woods, too far into the burbs, I don't know, downtown city, wherever we are, we're going to do some cold brews and hot takes. And folks, I'm going to come in hot here. I am going to start out with a beer I have not drank since I first started drinking beer. And that would be Widmer Drop Top. Some would say it's an introduction to snobby beers. Some would say that before I had the Drop Top, I only didn't even really like beer at all.
It should be your first microbrew.
But I definitely
sure.
had it.
A gateway microbrew.
It's like a gateway microbrew. It's like a microbrew that's like, hey, this is pretty good. I mean, then you realize it's not really a fancy microbrew at all later. But at first, you really think this is amazing. And this is the most snobby thing I've ever seen. Speaking of Royal Tenenbaums, Royal Tenenbaums is the pumpkin spice latte of snobby movies. That's right, folks. Everyone thinks they like coffee, but no, they like pumpkin spice lattes. Does pumpkin spice lattes, is it a gateway to getting you to drink real coffee? Sure. Why not? But is it real coffee? Hard to say. The Royal Tenenbaums is your gateway to snobby movies, folks. It's your pumpkin spice latte of snobbery.
Ouch.
I think that is a great take, and yeah, a little hot, but I cannot dispute it. And maybe this is going to reflect poorly on me, but I'll get to my hot take.
Ooh.
Which again, the first part of this podcast will be brought to you by Bodhisattva, and then soon after it'll be brought to you by the Elysian Dawn Again Hazy Pale Ale.
We haven't even watched Godfather yet. Jeez Louise.
Yeah. So my hot take is that I think this is my favorite Wes Anderson movie.
Yep. That is not hot. That is the least hot take of a...
Yeah, but I think it is... I could see people judging me pretty harshly.
Let me first have a question for you real quick. Do you view yourself as a movie snob? Because I just want to kind of break this down. And do you feel that this doesn't reflect your movie snobbery enough? Because you like, how should we say, at a coffee shop, you're excited for PSL season. Like, would you say...
I don't like pumpkin spice latte because I don't like coffee.
Right,
but I like
so
many
you're not
movies.
even there yet. So you're just a basic sort of, what would you call it? A basic...
Well, I'm, yeah. Rhymes with alliteration. I mean, I would say I'm more snobby than the average bear.
For sure.
But...
Yeah, beer.
And it's interesting because obviously when this came out, like you mentioned, this was it was the
pivot.
Movie. It was the inflection point of him going full Wes Anderson.
Oh, this is the movie. Like we will as soon as Mariah does her hot take, we're going to jump right into that because this is the movie, and we got to talk about when it came out and the timing, and oh my goodness, Mariah. Without further ado, what's your hot take?
Well, I'd like to say I do have a hot take.
Ooh.
I did conjure one. My cold
Evil.
brew is Breakside Wanderlust.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
Not a shocker.
Nope.
I think my hot take is, without having to think too deeply about it, I would say every actor in this movie, for me, this is my favorite of theirs. It's not necessarily my favorite Wes Anderson, but it might be my favorite movie of each of these actors.
Well, that's hard.
I like them best in Royal Tenenbaums.
That's
Even
interesting.
Bill Murray.
Maybe.
Because he did
I said without thinking too deeply.
Okay, for sure.
Something else might pop in, but right now I'm thinking, yeah, I could say.
I could break down movie by movie already in my head, but I'm restraining myself for the record.
I do want to also. I think I misspoke. I said this is my favorite Wes Anderson movie, which obviously it is because it's in my top 10 list, and it's not all Wes Anderson movies.
That's why it wasn't a hot take.
I think it's Wes Anderson's best movie, which I think is the hot take.
Yeah.
Critically
not. Yeah.
Everything else, that's the actual hot take. Is I disagree with other people.
You think this is critically the best Wes Anderson movie?
I think it's the best Wes Anderson movie.
So it's
not just my favorite. I think
it's the
it
best.
Is better. Yes.
That's a better hot take. I'm not going to lie. Because we literally are doing this movie because it's
the
in your
first
top
one,
10.
yeah.
I was a little confused.
Yes.
I was like,
no, that's where
just sending
I ran into a door a few minutes ago and I came up with my hot take.
I'm like, bro.
I know.
That's why we're here.
Oh, yeah. That's why Seth is dressed like this.
I'm not sad to be dressed like this.
He's going to keep
I think people would maybe go Grand Budapest or Moonrise Kingdom or something.
The Oscars would point to that.
Better.
Sure, for sure.
And I disagree.
Okay. That's good. That's a little bit better.
I still love them.
Yeah.
I still love those movies.
Oh, for sure.
Ooh, I was so delighted rewatching this movie. It'd been a little while.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And this this has long been in my vague top 10 in the back of my head of movies. It's just so easy. Mm-hmm. And certainly as part of our family dynamic, it showed up and it stuck around. Right? So
hope your dad's not listening to this. Man, that's awkward.
And I kind of realized there's so many like movies I think that our family is drawn to, like Princess Bride or Strange Brew or Monty Python. That the lines are so funny, repeatable.
Oh, for sure.
Like that, right? Like
no.
The dialogue in this movie is
the
outrageous.
dry humor.
It's so good.
Classic for us.
No, I again rewatched it. Not sad. Not a beat was missed.
It was a delight to rewatch.
Yeah, it's totally. I'm like, well, yeah, we are the target we are the target audience right now. Like, I listened to a couple of podcasts about it. One of them was white males around my age, and they're like, oh my gosh, love. The other was some non-white females, and they're like, sexist. And I'm like, not wrong. And so it was a very fun listen to the two things, but. Yeah, we're the demographic guys. Let's just call it as it is. This was I would say it's a cultural moment.
Semi-artsy white people.
For sure. This is the artsy drug. This is your pot. Like this is get you into artsy films. I probably wouldn't like snobby films as much if it weren't for Wes Anderson. I admit that. He's the drop top of my life, and I'm not sad about it, and I'm happy to go back there. Sometimes I just want an amber ale. I mean, I'm not proud of it, but I just want an amber ale. Sometimes even I'll go for a Newcastle, you know?
It's nearly fall.
It's crazy.
Some people think it is fall.
Not a pumpkin. This is not a pumpkin beer, guys. That's gross, and you need to figure something out if you're drinking a pumpkin beer. That's gross. Mariah, what was your feelings when you watched this again? Same thing? Just love? Like, oh, I'm home. Absolutely.
So easy. And also, I feel like this time I really got into the fact that I remembered how much I loved the soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
and I was
listened to it for about a week before I watched the movie again.
Yeah, like I was so happy to hear all of it. It was great.
Okay, what's the one thing that stood out to you this time watching? I'm gonna go first because it's on my brain. And I gotta get out.
Right.
I thought Margot Tenenbaum was really, because you knew that Gene Hackman was amazing. You knew he was amazing. Like that was fine. Like I knew that. Like I knew he won the Golden Globe. Blah, blah, blah. But the moments of that were Margot's were so much more emotional for me, and maybe that's just because of like when she broke. It was so good. So that was my favorite surprise of this time watching.
Yeah, when she spends
like
time
during
with
the
Richie
cuddle.
after,
the cuddle,
her face,
and the first look. Yeah, just whenever she had these like little breaks were so much more, because it was such a style thing for sure. But then I'm like, no, it's actually pretty good acting in this movie. And I thought before I just thought it was like she was kind of like whatever.
They are all peak in this.
It's so good.
You know who I don't think was peak? Well, not. I mean, that was the character. But the one I'm representing, he was the most. His was, and he was behind this, so you couldn't see him. He was supposed to be the even keel guy.
What is peak Luke Wilson?
Anchorman, obviously.
He's actually pretty fun in The Family Stone. Mm-hmm. He's sort of doing almost an Owen impression in that one.
Great in that one. Yeah, he is.
And which is where he gets to be a little
very
bit
good
more.
in an episode of the X-Files with vampires.
True too.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, for sure.
Yeah, but he also, I think that's interesting. He's sort of the straight man in this movie.
He's the only straight man in the whole movie who's not like off the wall.
And he's the core. He's what all the characters come back to so that the story works. Yeah. Right? He's the nexus of all these relationships.
Him and the mom, for sure.
Yeah, they're the wise men.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
which is
Royal
hard to believe because he tries to kill himself in it, but
yeah, that's
and he's like the most broken.
Yeah.
Of all of them, but because he was so quiet, right? Like he hit it. There's a lot of interesting dynamics with he's so not flashy, but in a way, because of how the story works out, you kind of realize everyone took him for granted that he was fine. you know,
right?
in a way.
So that's he was gone on a boat.
So that's what you mean by most broken is because it wasn't realized. Everyone else, you kind of knew they were broken.
They were pretty obvious.
Yeah, it was sort of on their sleeve. Like,
I mean, he did melt down in a tennis match. I mean, that was.
Yeah.
I know.
But then he disappeared. You know, he fell off the grid.
But
so everybody is focused more on Ben Stiller's character.
When they're all in the same room, he's the glue. He's the one that's the calm that keeps them all together, for sure. So that's why it's more hidden, because he has to be the adult in the room when his mom's not there.
And it felt like outside of Chaz's kind of recent trauma, like Richie's life fell apart the most from kind of Royal... Mm-hmm. You know, leaving, and you know, he was the most connected. Anyway, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there.
For sure. Oh, for sure.
I think what stood out to me this viewing was two things, which is why I think it's kind of my favorite Wes Anderson in a way. It's because it didn't go full Wes Anderson. Like the sets it's real locations, right? Like
sure,
the house is a real house.
Now, are you comparing to Fantastic Mr. Fox? That was actually not real foxes, Pat. That was stop motion.
I am not comparing it to Fantastic Mr. Fox.
No, I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Dogs.
Okay, I was going to bring that one up too.
I didn't know we were doing fun facts already.
No, even
not stop motion.
Even getting into Life Aquatic next, he kind of went way more fantastical. Like this is an alternate version of like reality in New York, but it still is grounded, and I think the performances largely are grounded, mainly because Gene Hackman I think is so big and not like constrained by the Wes Anderson of it all.
Sure,
that it feels like.
But it's the Wes Anderson palette. You're getting into the color. You're getting into the shots.
The language,
and way more than Rushmore. It's a big jump.
It is based in reality.
But it didn't go full pastel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the characters are all wearing the same outfits the whole time, but it's still somehow more naturalistic in a way where I think it bridges the gap between relatability and full artsiness. Again, I love that too, but I think this one it's not full style yet. It's like heavy emotion with a wonderful artistic backdrop in a universe that they created. So I just was kind of reminded like, oh yeah, these are really naturalistic performances in a lot of ways. It's just the dialogue is stilted and, in funny
classic
ways I love, but
deadpan,
it still feels like everyone's got real emotions. Bill Murray's like, you made a cuckold of me. Like, that's this funny, sad thing. But it's intense when he asks her for a cigarette, because he's like outing her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, it's just like there's intense stuff happening under the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But just how they react to those situations is kind of where you get into this stylistic thing. Anyway, I could just fanboy about this for a long time. That was kind of my takeaway. Just reminded, since I just watched, all the shorts.
Oh wow!
And
nice. Like the recent ones from the last couple of years.
Sugar.
Yeah, the Oscar-winning.
Yay! First Oscar he actually got. Right.
And then Asteroid City, right? Like, so that was stuff I saw most recently, and that's full Wes Anderson, which is lovely.
Yeah.
And then coming back to this, you're like, oh, it's like gritty Wes Anderson.
It is. That's true. It does feel, compared to Asteroid City, there's so much removed from that.
Yeah.
You don't
the
feel
artifice,
the hit.
It's all artifice almost.
Because
anyway.
even when like I hate to say your mom died. How long ago? 3 weeks. I mean, they do have some of those like dark, humorous things. Oh man,
it does kind of remind you of when you were first introduced to like M. Night Shyamalan. Like everybody saw The Sixth Sense, and they're like, "What?" And then all of a sudden, you see every other M. Night Shyamalan, and you're like, "Oh yeah, there's a style to this guy. There's an equation that he uses."
Yeah.
Am I wrong? But was the early 2000s just a glorious time in movie making? I feel like you have.
Although that was peak movie watching for us too.
Oh,
I don't know.
But I don't know. You got like The Matrix going on. You've got the Lord of the Rings going on. You've got this movie, which wasn't even that big on the box office, and arguably Wes Anderson's most Wes Anderson. This made Wes Anderson Wes Anderson. Mm-hmm. You've got it just seems like a very fun time of movie.
A Beautiful Mind, Donnie Darko.
Yeah, we were still going to movies too.
It just seems like a glorious time in movies.
Vanilla Sky.
Oh, very fun.
There's a lot of good stuff.
Good stuff in that era. Man, maybe we're getting just too nostalgic here. Sorry, guys. And then
that's partially what
Marvel took over.
It's past our bedtime, but we're willing
over.
to stay up and
Good
talk about
night.
these guys. The good old days.
Oh, so Mariah, what stood out most about the movie on the rewatch?
I just now I was kind of reflecting on Gene Hackman's, sidekicks, Kubota, and
so
then
good.
What's his face, the elevator operator.
Yeah. Sing Sing, the masseuse.
Yeah.
Don't forget Sing
But
Sing.
the fact that those two guys were like his wing, like they helped him get away with all the things, and they just seem like
dusty.
They're quiet but great characters. Great.
That's the crazy thing about it. Like, he's this horrible person, but he still has people that seems to have his back for some reason.
Oh yeah, they helped him set up these like elaborate like hospital beds and like.
He had a spy in the house of his wife for what, 20 years?
Yeah.
Are we not gonna like bring that up?
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, he's so. Even that was interesting and kind of amazing. Like. He's just so charming that you forgive how awful he is, and by the end, you're like, I want Royal to have like sorted stuff out and be a better dad, and he, largely has, and it's so rewarding.
He's so
in this like sappy way.
He's so likable in his character that you don't feel bad for Danny Glover at all.
Oh, he's horrible.
Who has like the most noble intentions and like.
Oh, I feel bad.
You're like, eh.
Oh, see,
it's
no.
fine if he doesn't get...
Nope. Disagree.
Well, I didn't want him getting back with Ethylene.
No.
But and when Danny Glover outs him, you kind of go, yeah, you deserve that. Like, I don't love that it happened, but he deserved it.
Yeah.
I know, it's so interesting.
It didn't even go that badly for him in that part. It was temporary and very quickly.
Stabs him again. Even that kind of stuff.
That was a great bit. That was a great bit.
That's the last time you stab me. It's such a weird, strange.
Now get me in the car.
Movie. Yeah.
I still think it's the old thing. It's better to have a bad father than no father. Like, that's I don't know if that's like a theme. I mean, that seems to be a theme of every Wes Anderson movie.
Can we also talk about Alec Baldwin's narration?
Oh, they cut that. Don't worry. It's not even in there.
It's so good.
They argued about that on stage about whether or not Wes Anderson told Alec Baldwin if he cut it. Because Alex told, it's like, no.
That
Wes
was the
told
story
me they're going to cut it.
Inside.
And then Wes is like, I never said that. It's just so weird.
Yeah, it did sound like something the studio wanted narration.
Yeah. Although the best parts are no narrate. The most impactful parts.
Yes.
I don't know. I think like when he says like, and Royal realized in that moment that he actually meant what he was saying.
It's funny. That's why it's funny. I think the narration is
I think
humorous.
His voice was key. I thought it was.
I think it's a comic thing that helped that, but it didn't help the actual intense parts. Like, that was done.
No. The acting was great, and they carried their own stuff. But I do love the breaks for the narration. For
sure. Okay,
let's talk. And the animals. Multiple animals, guys.
Okay. Where do we want to start, guys? We want to start with the first alternative casting, or we want to talk about the writing or production? Let's talk about the alternative casting. So Wes Anderson wrote this part for Gene Hackman, and Gene Hackman was stoked, so excited. Oh, wait, no, he wasn't.
Oh, that wasn't.
He said,
don't write for me.
You know the irony? I've read the interview and how it went. Like, he's like, I don't like it because you don't know me, and I hate when people write stuff for me. But yet, Gene Hackman then went back to his family and say, is it okay that I'm doing this movie? Does it hit too close to home? So I do wonder if it was just too close for Gene.
Like, you nailed me so well that maybe I shouldn't do
it. So that was my little...
It's what's interesting about that whole thing with Gene Hackman is, not only did Wes want to write it for him, and he was reluctant about that, he had to make scale for this movie because there was no money.
Folks, for those at home that don't know what it is, scale is the regular pay that any actor gets for the number of years they've been working. So that would mean Gene Hackman got paid diddly squat. The joke used to be Gene Hackman doesn't open his eyes for under $3 million. That was the joke at that time.
And he only did 3 more movies after this, and so that was a big thing. He's like, I only have so many more movies in me.
I was really hoping this was the last movie. I was really hoping this was the last movie. It wasn't.
He did Runaway Jury, and he's good in that. That's a fun movie.
When did Heartbreakers come out?
Look at the last movie he did. It wasn't good.
That 90s?
Well, Welcome to Mooseport was one of the last ones.
Welcome to Mooseport was the last with Ray Romano.
Yeah, that's such a bummer.
Such a bummer.
But so there's all these things, and then he's like, told Wes Anderson, like, this, I just want to have fun. And then there's such a sad moment. Like, a huge regret Wes Anderson had in his life is that he didn't make it more fun for Gene Hackman. He literally on set one day was like, I'm not having fun, Wes.
I don't think
Which made it prickly, and there's some dynamics that we don't necessarily have to get into.
Nope.
But he was the only cast. Angelica Houston, it was written for her.
Yep.
Oh, Heartbreakers came out the same year.
Yep.
Interesting.
And then, but there were the alternates I saw. Did you already have this queued up?
I don't.
Seth?
No, go for it, Pat.
Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder, yep.
But he'd already retired, and so it was like, and then I guess Michael Caine came up as a.
I think that both of those would have been pretty good, actually. It would just been very different.
Yes, but good.
Oh yeah,
interesting.
Michael
but
Caine
it wouldn't have surprised you that it was in a comedy like that.
No,
it would be shocking to hear anyone else say, I want to throw a brick through the other guy's windshield, take it out and chop it up, right? Like, that's only out of Gene Hackman's mouth, right?
Yeah. All right. The other movies parts were because I think Ben Stiller and Gwyneth Paltrow, they're the first choice, I think, for both of those as well. But it was a schedule thing. The crazy thing is the cast never got together.
They only had
10
weeks,
and they never had the full cast together. So they
that's nuts.
Isn't that nuts? Not once has the entire cast.
Well, I think except for the photo shoots, they had some cast photo shoots. I think everyone was technically. I think I saw video evidence of all these people doing this, basically.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But that's it.
I was like, that could easily be
promotional
together.
stuff.
Yeah.
I don't, because I think Ben Stiller had 3 weeks.
Yep.
Total.
Gwyneth had 4 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't the same. Yeah.
Nope.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. Pretty nuts.
A cast. Another thing I was like, hey, you know that guy. Just speaking of casting, was Frederick the Bellhop.
Yes.
Did you recognize him?
Oh.
It's Eben Moss Bachrach or whatever from The Bear.
Oh.
The older. Did you guys watch The Bear?
No, not yet. Sorry.
Not yet.
Pat. I know it just won.
He's going to be playing.
I heard
the Thing.
The
in
Bear's
the new
hilarious,
Fantastic
though.
Four.
According to the Grammys, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So
the Emmys, yes. Not
the Emmys, that's what it was.
Full comedy. It is humorous at times.
Sure.
Anyway,
so is The Martian.
For you Bear fans, Evan's in this movie as a bellhop with long hair.
That's pretty
It's
great.
so weird going back and watching these movies and be like, wait.
Oh, I recognize that guy.
I know that person.
Other fun things that are casting. Owen Wilson's brother.
Oh, yeah, I do like that.
Was the
Knuckle.
Also, he was
with the BB in it.
With the BB in it, because that actually happened to Owen Wilson's brother.
That seems wild. You would not have taken that out?
I don't know. It's so cool, though. It's so...
it feels like you just, Grandma would have taken tweezers to my hand and pulled that out.
That sounds so 70s.
Dick.
So 70s and 80s. Next thing, he also was the announcer with Wes Anderson for the tennis match.
Yes.
I was thinking about that when I was listening to the tennis match. I was like, I know
good.
this voice, but who is it? Well, it was a Wilson, huh?
Yep. And did he drew some of the art? Is that what it was?
No, Wes Anderson's brother, Eric Anderson.
Oh, that's right, Eric Anderson. Oh, maybe I'm mixing that up. Maybe
all
Eric.
Richie's paintings.
That's so funny.
Or either Wes or Eric. I was watching some behind the scenes stuff, and Wes actually did quite a bit of the sort of art stuff where he worked really closely with Eric.
That's so good.
There's a funny part where they've done kind of the big mural wall for Richie's room. It's on the ground, and he's like commenting on Chaz's caricature. And he's like, "Can I just draw this?" And the artist is like, "Yeah,
I guess,
sure."
yeah.
He's like, "I'm just going to Sharpie this." And he's like, "I'm a little nervous about that."
I guess you're the director. I guess it's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, he and his brother share an artistic sensibility. That's pretty funny.
That's funny. That's great.
Can we spend a few minutes talking about some of the lines?
Okay, fine. So are we gonna do all the references here, or where we go with the lines? Because there's just the funness of the lines.
I mean, it can be anything.
Okay,
So
go, baby.
When Royal shows up to, Margot's play, and Chaz is like, "What do you think of it?" And he's like, didn't seem believable to me. Just a bunch of kids in costumes.
Yeah, it's awful.
Just how
And it
horrible.
ends up being her birthday.
Yeah.
You say this on her birthday.
And she walks out right as they're coming out with the cake.
Oh, fun fact
Yeah.
do you want to do the fun fact about that scene?
Sure.
Angelica
I don't know the fun
Houston's
fact.
hair caught on fire from the candles on the cake.
Ooh, that's exciting.
And the guy
Quickly
who
put it.
plays Pagoda put it out.
Oh, save the day.
Nice.
Save the day.
Again, saving everybody's life.
Saving the day. And somehow he stabbed Gene Hackman in that same scene. No. So that's a little fun one for you. Yeah, that's such a good sign. Oh.
And then we get to Eli's
Eli Cash. Are you
book reading.
That's the best. Which is for reals a reference to a real author, by the way. Like,
Yeah, it's like Cormac McCarthy-ish or whatever.
Yes, and it's like
I think what's fun too about Wes Anderson, it is both really snobby and also they take the piss out of all of the stuff that they're doing.
all of it.
Right? Like, so it's like, yeah, we know it all looks snobby, but we're not glamorizing this. Like, these are all...
It's like
This is
the
the best
fake
of
snobby.
life.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
It's making fun of snobbery in itself, which is pretty great.
Yeah.
Nobody's
And
going
they
to go
wrote
out
on-
and get addicted to drugs like
Yeah.
Eli does.
Well,
Yeah,
it's hard because I'm
the
on
line-
mescaline.
The line
That's
I
right.
wrote
What'd you
down,
say?
I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
His
but,
whole rehab
and they wrote
part,
on
too.
in the friscalating dusk light. And you're like, what?
You just have a thesaurus.
Yeah. And then in the interview, everyone knows Custer died at the Battle of Bighorn. What my book presupposes is maybe he didn't.
He didn't?
Question mark?
And it's like, he's so celebrated for this book.
Oh, actually, you never got
that kind
good.
of stuff to me is just
You
so...
never got good critical reviews.
Yeah.
But
No.
that's so good.
Dudley as a character existing in this movie.
Am I colorblind?
Heisenbergian syndrome.
Am I colorblind?
I'm colorblind?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I'm not colorblind, am I? Yes, you are. That
Really good
that
hearing.
is a
A cute
whole
sense of hearing, yeah.
that to me is what makes these movies so fun, is the deep, weird side plots and backstories of these other characters. The fact that Raleigh St. Clair is this weird neuroscientist whose whole thing is like, I'm going to find people with just very neurodivergent lives or something. And
Oh, yeah, when he says,
Yeah,
now
like-
make it look like mine. And then he
Yeah,
just
make yours
like
look
giggling and like, so interesting.
it's like
Fascinating. Just dying. And that, of course,
so
is
bizarre.
based on another real scientist as well.
Where's that red one gonna go? I look that line in
And
there.
then you're like, he doesn't even see the red one once you hear he has colorblind.
Oh, well,
That cab has a dent in it, and there's another one, and another one. And you're like, what is this character?
Well, in that one taxi cab too, even it's just like hold that cab, and like it's always the one with like the busted out window with the cardboard halfway up.
Oh yeah, it's like the worst.
It's so disgusting.
Come on, let's shag ass.
Basically anything that Gene Hackman says.
Yeah, I couldn't even begin thinking about knowing how to answer that question. Dad, you were never dying.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. That whole scene is so good. It's the perfect, like, he just accepts him as he is.
Yeah. When they're talking about the cemetery, and Richie's like, I haven't been there since I was this old. And Margot's like, I've never been. I was never invited.
What's my middle name? That's a trick. Yeah. You don't have a middle name. Helen. Oh, that's my mother's name.
I know.
Oh,
your mother was a terribly attractive woman. It's like,
oh, we got another body buried here.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh, so good.
Yeah, all that is wonderful.
Oh,
so wonderful.
Basically, anytime Owen Wilson's is talking, I mean, he wrote it, so I always feel like that's why he gets these great lines. It's like, why do you got to make it a point to just say I'm not a genius? Like, why is that part of your...
You didn't even hesitate.
Yeah.
Or I feel like you answered
also,
that
what
really
a great
fast.
One-sided conversation, you know. And then...
Yeah, the guys at rehab with him.
Oh, man. Which is another quote from... What did he say? The dust is... Oh, that line is so ridiculous.
He's just lassoing.
Right. Yeah, it's just some, like... comment about the weather, but it's very westerny, you know. I can't remember what it is. Some yonder or whatever.
Yeah. You only gave me attention when I started getting good critical reviews. You've never gotten good critical reviews.
Yeah, they weren't that good. Yeah. Oh, the suicide note. Can you read it?
Dark?
Is it dark?
That was
or it's dark.
Note.
It's a suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Oh.
Or that whole wildcat thing. And he just keeps repeating wildcat.
Wildcat. The art.
Like,
here I come. Whatever weird face paint he's got going on.
Oh, it's so good. I still think this is the... Watching a director kind of peak is what makes this movie so fun. Because he just did Rushmore, which I enjoy so much more now than when it first came out, because I just wasn't in a place to like enjoy Rushmore.
Good.
Yeah,
it's
I tried to like it more when it came out, because so many of my friends were like, "You've got to watch Rushmore."
Which is
and
your friends are snobby. That's impressive.
You had pretty
like,
snobby.
That's pretty snobby.
It's fine.
I saw it in theaters and I was like, "Yeah, okay, kind of weird." But then
Jason Schwartzman's a lot, right?
Yeah,
and
he's
so
a lot.
Kinda...
But once you've seen a lot of Jason Schwartzman, which we have now,
that's who I thought was the tennis announcer. I thought it was Jason Schwartzman's voice, but it must have been Wes Anderson.
Yeah, I think it was Wes.
Yes, he was.
I was like, man, that sounds so familiar, and that's who I pictured, but I didn't go back and look.
Yeah. So, but this one feels like, because that one does use all the same sort of tropes of Wes Anderson, but it feels like Wes Anderson light, because it doesn't have the pastel color wheels. Because like every movie, this movie's so surreal, but not as, like you said before, as crazy. But it's still like the first time you're like, you could take a scene from almost any other Wes Anderson movie and put it in this movie, and you'd probably be fine. Like you probably
this
be fine.
Is where like he's full enough into the style that you're like, okay, I get it. The camera moves,
right? Well, like when you jump to like
how art directed
Margot's
everything
first
is,
wedding, like to the Jamaican guy,
and the stuff is the main thing. Like you could have gone to like where they show the stuff packing in.
It's all laid out.
Moonrise Kingdom.
The glove correction,
it's
just it's so good.
All of it's the same.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, he'd mentioned in Rushmore, he felt, and I assume Bottle Rocket to some degree, although maybe less so even than Rushmore, but like he felt pressure to kind of do stuff more typically, and so he felt like he compromised on the plan in Rushmore, where this movie was like, no, we have a plan. Let's do the plan.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think that's where it got more into like, I'm going to make this stuff how I expect it to be.
And all the details.
All the stuff.
Details.
And so then it's about just executing. And then when he has to compromise because the house didn't actually frame a stairway how he expected, they figured it out. But it became his compromises as opposed to doing it for a studio or something.
And probably made a mental note. Next time I'm going to make my own set. So that will fit exactly how I want it.
I mean, I think there is...
Forget these real buildings.
These actors aren't symmetrical enough. Let's do stop motion, okay? These darn real faces ruin everything.
Let's try something else.
Yeah, exactly right. I still think this is the most enjoyable Wes Anderson movie. I will say that. This is like
it's pretty easy going.
It's pretty easy going because as rough as it gets, as like going back and forth between the line of like really harsh, really horrible things, really horrible people, to whimsy, which I would say he does it well. Some people say he doesn't do it well. Depends on your sensitiveness. We of course are not sensitive in this podcast
not in that way
at all. We could care less. Hey, Kung Fu Hustle, baby.
Yeah.
We can have the blood and the goofy at the same time. So yeah, it's really that's something that has been fun. And then the other movies seem to be. It's almost like he's trying to get snobbier with his newer movies, like with the French Dispatch and the Grand Budapest Hotel. And some play better, and some of them you get kind of lost. And you're like, okay. Because all of his movies, let's be real. This is the weird thing about Wes Anderson. The plot doesn't matter. Who said that? The plot is like really like the fourth or fifth most important thing.
Which I thought was interesting too. Is true. Like there isn't necessarily anything particularly poignant going on in the plot, but
it's complicated. They're always complicated.
That he was influenced by a couple of movies, and one of which I watched. I watched the Orson Welles.
Oh, nice! Tell me about that.
Magnificent Ambersons.
Yeah,
I wanted to.
And
wow, look at you!
I know, Mariah. I thought I was getting on it.
I read it and I was like, oh, I wonder if that's available to watch. And sure enough, it was. And
nice.
I watched it. I mean, there was good people in it, a lot of familiar faces, and it does have a vibe that makes you go, I see why he liked this, but the plot had not very little to do. I mean, it's a family dynamic kind of thing. People are messed up. Some people are very unlikable and like don't redeem themselves like Gene Hackman does. But it's a good watch. And I did get that he must have been influenced by the vibe of it. And he must have gotten some visual things from it, but definitely not the same plot.
No,
yeah, he mentioned he liked how bold Orson Welles' camera moves are.
As always.
And that's where I kind of got the idea. Like, he really liked... Which also, I mean, it makes you think back, too, to Orson Welles movies. You're like, oh, yeah, I can see why Wes Anderson would be inspired.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Little Orson Welles.
Well, I think that led to some of his I think he calls them in-camera cuts, right, where you're reframing a shot.
Yeah.
You know.
He loves the zoom and the pan, the fast pan, the quick zoom.
It's like instead of those being different shots, let me just transition. And it is delightful, and it feels so specific.
It feels like a 70s cop movie, is what it feels like. But that's in a good way.
Which this movie had like a fun... I think it kind of makes this stuff feel timeless in a way.
Do you think that's why
you're watching this movie...
Yeah. For sure.
I'm too old for this shit.
You're watching
this movie, and then you're like, "Oh wait, this ends in 2001, right? Like the time period is literally modern time." And you're like, "Oh, okay,
sure."
Like I guess that makes sense, but it's not like none of the characters feel like they're in 2001.
No.
They're not dressed like it.
They're also
clearly.
It's supposed to be like timeless. It's supposed to be this like timeless thing.
With the tracksuits.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And also, it's hilarious. Even though this is obviously in New York, he makes sure to make it that it's not looks like New York. Like there's a shot where I think Pagoda has standing in front of the Statue of Liberty, so it's not New York. And Gene Hackman's like,
love
"You're
that
an idiot."
so much.
And Wes Anderson's like, "Nope, I'm a hipster before it was cool."
We're not going to give them
here's
all the
it kind of
information.
makes it kind of a fantasy world, even though it's like, it's New York-ish. The Y that exists in the movie is not a Y that really exists.
But it's
when you picture
sounds
that
like it
did
makes sense.
exist.
Exactly.
You're
right.
like, that sounds
legit.
just like a Y that you would know.
The house is a real house in New York. The other places are real places in New York.
I saw some description like, it's as if a teenager was describing what they thought New York was like or something.
Which is exactly what it was, because Wes Anderson never was in New York. This is his first movie he filmed outside of Texas. This is hilarious. He's like, it's just
so funny.
It's Wes Anderson's his ideas before he actually knew what New York was. It's the opposite of like Midnight Cowboy or Seinfeld for crying out loud. So it's very
I think
fun.
He came into his own in this movie in a way,
and he got the actors. The timing was perfect. He was the hot new director. This is Wes Anderson's moment, more so than Grand Budapest Hotel, because he got an Oscar, sure, but this is his moment. Like, this is the Wes Anderson moment where he became every millennial's hipster favorite director. Yeah. Well,
and now he's got the vibe like you would be like, oh, it's a Tim Burton movie, it's a Wes Anderson movie. Like, there's not that many directors like that where you go, I'm watching this.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm watching this, and I instantly recognize that it's that author or that artist, right? Like, and oftentimes it's bad, but I think Wes Anderson has made it.
Well, I don't know. I feel
because he's
like
largely done a good job.
When I watch a movie and it's 2 hours too long, I'm like, oh, this must be Martin Scorsese. Like it has that feel to it.
Somebody's trying to pass another record.
But if you're looking at a still of a Scorsese movie, you can't totally tell it's a Scorsese.
I can't, because it's either Leonardo DiCaprio or De Niro, so I know it's Scorsese.
Yeah.
You
50-50 chance.
Yeah, 50-50 there. But that's...
I have a few more fun facts before maybe we settle into our takeaways here.
For sure.
Because no one knows what we think of this movie yet.
Yeah. Don't watch it. It's dumb.
Can I give the one that I'm excited about?
Oh, I can't wait.
Yes, please do.
The original Falcon.
Yes, this is a great one.
Playing Mordecai.
This is great.
Was kidnapped during shooting.
By who?
And held for ransom. I don't know who did.
I'll also give you a hint. He was from New Jersey. That's all you need to know, folks.
Jersey guy.
This is the most New Jersey thing I've ever heard.
Some Jersey guy kidnapped the Falcon.
They
couldn't wait, filming wise, to get him back. So they have a second Falcon, and that's where this whole conversation about, his feathers are whiter now, and they talk about like how he might have had trauma. And like how your hair changes color.
Nope, he got.
Because it's a different bird.
I was hoping you would say that, because I also saw that fun fact.
I love it.
And then I read through the interview about Royal Tenenbaums with Wes Anderson.
Yeah, here we go.
And wouldn't you know, Mordecai the Falcon was actually played by 3 falcons and a hawk.
Oh, 3?
The falcons were for close-ups for the child and the adult.
Yep.
They always intended to switch from one falcon to the other with white feathers.
Sure.
They did lose a
Wes.
falcon for a minute, but it was always in the script that it had the white feathers on it. And it was like, where is it? Somewhere in here it had, there's an internet rumor that Mordecai's feathers changed because the production crew lost one falcon and had to replace it with another. Then wrote new dialogue to account for the fact that Mordecai looked different. But the director says this is incorrect. Falcon's changed appearance was always in the script, and although they did lose a falcon during shooting, they got it back.
They did get it back, and they did.
And what's interesting too is when they let go, let Mordecai go.
There's lawsuits.
There was a tracker on it or something.
Yeah.
I forget.
I think it was litigation and police stuff. Because I read that.
But
when
they let him go, the actual bird flying in the air is a hawk. because they were allowed to free a hawk in New York.
Not a falcon.
They couldn't free a falcon or something weird like that.
Oh.
So anyway, I was like, I'm glad I read this today because I also saw that fun fact and I was like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And it's half true. I would say it seems half true.
100%.
Yes, for sure.
The only other fun fact I have is that Time magazine named Henry Sherman as one of the 10 memorable accountant characters in film history.
Yes, that's great. I'm so glad you brought that one up. That's a great one.
He's like, I didn't realize we were making lists about accountant characters, but he made it.
Gosh, the question is, could you think of any others? The only one I can think of is Will Ferrell from
The Other Guys.
Fiction.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was going to say Fiction. Stranger Than Fiction.
Stranger Than Fiction?
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly The Other Guys. He's also a police accountant, I believe.
Number cruncher.
That's not going to be The Other Guys. I will quote the whole entire movie. I have
Ben Affleck.
I have a soft
Ben
spot for that
Affleck from
one.
The Accountant.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Glengarry Mouse or Glengarry.
Glenn Ross.
Yeah. Anyways.
Something.
I think that's all I had, even though I could talk about the quotes from this movie nonstop.
Oh.
And, like, Pagoda's whole backstory that he was an assassin hired to kill him.
It's a good
Carrying
story.
hospital.
Well,
So,
it's just
you know,
like the
then
whole
that's like
getting kicked out of the hotel and
What's
getting
the
his massage.
actor-
Like, I still got to pay what's-her-face.
yeah, $100. He had to borrow a quarter. Somehow Royal is living his life without any money at all.
Can I bum a quarter from you?
What's the actor who plays
Steve.
Pagoda? What's his name? Right.
Umar Pallana.
What is it?
Umar Pallana.
So Umar Pallana, I think Wes Anderson met in a coffee shop. He was working at a coffee shop, and that's one of the fun facts.
Cool.
Obviously, Owen Wilson and Wes Anderson and went to school together. Why they worked together? So they're classmates from before, which is kind of an interesting thing. That
Stuck like glue.
I'm not gonna lie, because I didn't put two and two together. That I'm like, oh, he just cast Owen Wilson because it's Owen Wilson. No, they came up together, which is so weird to me because they're so different. Of this thing. Also, is this actually a prequel? Because when Owen Wilson crashes into the wedding, is this actually part one of Wedding Crashers? Is that actually no? Is that not where that's going with the car?
I was listening to a Luke Wilson interview, and he talked about like why they thought they even could make Bottle Rocket, which he and Owen starred in together. Mm-hmm. And it was like the Bridges brothers, Bo and Jeff, had done the
Fabulous Baker
the brothers.
Boys.
Yeah, the Fabulous Baker Boys. They're like,
Mariah.
Thank you,
I'm
Mariah.
old. I know stuff.
That's impressive.
They're like, well, that went well, and they only had like a couple $100,000, so why can't we do it?
That's great.
And like, we need a couple $100,000 to make a movie.
That's a good bit. That's great.
Well, then, you think of like Napoleon Dynamite and like people making, like, we could make a movie, you guys. And this is probably the beginning of that. Like, we don't have any money. We got some stuff.
It's interesting.
It feels like a cyclical thing, right? Like,
we had
the 60s and 70s with this kind of new Hollywood, these rebels and George Lucas's and Scorsese's and stuff. And then with video cameras being more accessible, you get this next generation. And then, of course, we have the internet and get a next generation. So it's interesting, all these
Somebody's got a great
people willing to try.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, they're like, hey, the doors are a little wider open for me.
Nice.
Maybe I can do this.
Oh, yeah.
James L. Brooks actually produced one of the very few movies he produced outside of James L. Brooks, who helped create The Simpsons, produced The Simpsons, produced Bottle Rocket and got Wes Anderson started, and apparently defended that Owen and Luke could star in the movie because it started as a short film. And they're like, okay, well, Wes Anderson, you can direct it, but we're going to cast other people. And James L. Brooks was like, let him do the, let it be
James
these
L.
guys.
Brooks, man, those guys should be sending a portion of each check to them.
Way to back
So
him.
James L. Brooks is thanked in this movie. He didn't produce it, but he's thanked.
Way to go. Other fun things. Angelica Houston definitely slapped Gene Hackman. Like, so much so that had a handprint on his face. This is also
picturing Jack Nicholson.
No, ooh, we won't get into that one.
Could have been recast. Like it would have been a fun fit
no, he would have been fine. I think that they did make that movie. It's called with Helen Hunt. I think they did make that movie.
As good as it gets.
As good as it gets. But they were all pretty sick of Gene Hackman at that point, so it was kind of a funny thing. Like, she slapped him so hard.
Worth it.
Yeah. Apparently Bill Murray stuck around on days even he wasn't shooting to make sure it was cool.
Yes,
on
that
set,
was another fun
which is
fact.
funny.
Because
Bill Murray is also not always the easiest to work with.
On set sometimes.
He is, but not at that moment. At that moment, he was only taking like indie movies and small movies. Rumor is with Bill Murray, he took Garfield not knowing it was what it was. He thought it was a Coen Brothers movie. That's the rumor. So it was the wrong Coen. Because there is a Coen who directed it. So he literally said yes. He's like, oh yeah, brother, we're out there. I'll take this. Sucker.
That is funny.
Awkward. But yeah, Bill Murray's amazing in this one, of course, because it's Bill Murray.
He is such a small part. It's interesting because obviously we go from Rushmore, who is huge in it, and then
Life Aquatic.
The Life Aquatic.
Oh my goodness.
And it's back to Bill.
Yes.
And he's in so few scenes, but of course they're delightful.
So
and then
the
also
lines
like
are
pretty
good.
So the nice thing about being in a Wes Anderson movie is he does so many wide shots that everybody's always in it. So
whether or not they're doing anything.
You have shots that he's just in the background so many times. And so you always have these shots. And that's the crazy part about it. It's so much harder. As a guy who shoots weddings and receptions, the joke about receptions is if you're using your wide lens, that means it's a good party because you can capture the whole floor. If you're using your medium lens, it's an okay party. But if you see me using an 85 millimeter or 100 millimeter, yeah, it's a pretty lame party, and I'm just on faces, folks. I'm on the 3 people on the dance floor, and we're making it look good, all right? So, but Wes Anderson is always wide all the time, so you always see Bill Murray in the outside. It's hilarious, just kind of hanging out.
What's interesting with that too is, obviously Gene Hackman must be difficult at times. But like Wes Anderson has, like some other directors, Tim Burton, kept a cast of characters that recur a lot in his movies, and it just gets bigger and bigger. Like the French Dispatch, like there's like 1,000 characters.
Oh, yeah.
It's nuts.
Actually, City, 1,000 characters, and they keep recurring. So it must not be the worst experience ever to work with Wes.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be like a bucket list.
Interesting.
If you're an A-list actor, it's got to be like.
You want to probably
have you
done a Woody Allen
Hanks?
movie
Have
yet?
you been in Star
Asteroid
Trek?
City.
Have you been in Star Trek before? I'm sure it's the same thing.
Star Trek.
Yeah,
the goal.
you're in Star Trek first, then you're in a Wes Anderson movie. Everyone knows it. It's crazy. I started reading my sister-in-law the cast lists of all these movies. I'm like, hey, have you seen a movie that stars this many people? She's like, that's the most insane cast I've ever heard. I'm like, yeah, here, listen to this one. And I just read the cast list of like Wes Anderson movie after Wes Anderson movie.
They're
and it's obscene.
nuts.
It's obscene.
Mm-hmm.
It makes
This one's nuts. And then you go Life Aquatic, and you're like,
look
what?
tame. It makes
Especially
Ocean's 11 look...
Considering the budget for this was $21 million.
Because he gets away with paying everybody scale. It's crazy. I don't know.
And now it's
since
like,
you brought
of
it
course
up,
it's worth it.
Since you brought it up, apparently Danny Glover, Luke Wilson, and Owen Wilson turned down parts in Ocean's 11 to be in this movie.
Stop.
I don't know how true that is. Again, IMDb lied to us with this Falcon situation.
Well,
You
we
know-
certainly didn't get
you know
the
what?
whole story.
IMDb and Wikipedia does. Well, here's the other thing. We've watched... we haven't watched Jimbo, but we have watched... the movie with the unreliable narrator. Wes Anderson is kind of an unreliable narrator. Let's just be real right now.
Yeah.
When he does interviews, he'll say stuff that you think he's saying just to keep his image as Wes Anderson. Like, there was some sonata he listened into, like F flat, that got him inspired for this movie. I doubt it. He was probably listening to Foghat or something. Like, there's no way he was just like.
It also, in that interview in the book, he was like, "Oh yeah, did that happen in this movie?" Like,
oh my gosh,
he forgot so much about the movie. So you kind of go.
I think he's a living in the moment guy.
Alec Baldwin might have been right. Maybe he was going to cut the narration.
I don't believe he's a living in the moment guy. He's just living in his own head guy. Because he plans ahead so much. He's not living... As someone who is a living in the moment guy,
true.
I can't be with Wes Anderson
now.
as a planner. Like, I honestly don't know who's around me right now. But I just know me. And that's, I think, he's kind of a megalomaniac. But he's a nice enough one that people like to work with him. So it seems to work out pretty well.
He churns out some pretty great product. So
yeah, pretty colorful and unusual. Other than Darjeeling Unlimited. It's a good. It's some good stuff.
I kind of feel like I should give it another chance because that was the one I was not into.
It's bad. No, don't worry about it. It's still bad.
It's co-written by Noah Baumbach, who I like some of the time.
Yeah, sure, and I like everything in it except for the movie. Other than that,
I think there's redeeming qualities to the movie, but as a whole, it's garbage.
It's not good. It's not good.
I will rewatch it just to see.
It's got great cinematography. And there are a couple lines that are funny, obviously.
That's what I'm saying.
But the movie's...
Shout out to Robert D. Yeoman, who has been doing cinematography with him since Ball Rocket.
Nice job, Pat. Thank you.
Very good.
Rob.
As the videographer, I feel embarrassed to not even think about the cinematographer. But just because Wes Anderson's so hands-on, he's not a hands-off director. He's... we're going to get this all the way I want it.
You guys do what I'm telling you to
exactly right. So, Pat, the first question I have...
So you guys agree I'm right. This should have been on all of our top 10s.
Yeah, if you're just getting started and you haven't ever seen a Snobby movie before...
you need your movie starter kit.
Yeah, if you... This is
your
like...
Snobby
this
movie
is here,
starter kit.
Absolutely starter kit material.
You watch Citizen Kane and you watch this... And then
Amelie
and that's a good one. Amelie's a good one.
Arrival.
No, Arrival doesn't.
I'm helping people out. I'm helping people out.
It's on the. I think Titanic's on the list as well. So is.
Do not. I have eighth grader
Shakespeare in Love. You shut your mouth. So. Do not put Shakespeare in Love in the same conversation.
I mean, I almost said that was Gwyneth.
That's
acting,
that's so. I almost
Sliding Doors.
I could.
Hey, that is a good movie.
I like that better than Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah.
So, first question: favorite character. I'm going to count to 3, and we're all going to say our favorite character. Okay?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'll give you a little time. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Eli Cash.
Kubota.
Royal.
Oh, that's that Pat.
I know.
You're so
I
basic.
almost went with Brawley. It's really the combination of Brawley and Dudley, and that
Patrick is going to be Pumpkin Spice Latte. PSL Pat. That's what we're going to call him from here on out. I didn't realize you're PSL Pat.
You guys are, there's something to like trying to over snob, and like Royal is just
first
the
of all,
most charismatic of any of these characters.
Eli
I
Cash.
read somewhere that you should like these movies to be the biggest snob.
Eli Cash is not a snobby answer. Just for the record, that is not a snobby answer.
The choice Owen Wilson made in this movie that I love because it's so strange. So when he's sneaking out of the house and Royal looks down and is like, "I know you, a-hole," and he goes, just shoot his arm up at him like
everything he does. This is like
when he crashes the car and he's in the house, and all of a sudden he's like in the house looking out at the accident. He's like, "Hey, is everybody okay?"
Have you seen my shoe?
Did anyone get hurt? Yeah.
Have you seen my shoe? Can
Poor
someone look around
Buckley.
my shoe?
No, Buckley.
Poor Buckley, named after the musician Jeff Buckley.
Oh no. We should talk about that. Other suicides besides Jeff Buckley include Needle in the Hay singer Elliott Smith, who killed himself shortly after this movie. which is even more depressing. As
Owen
well.
Wilson attempted to kill himself.
Yes, much later though. Much later. It was a decade
There
or
was
so.
a very awkward interview with Luke Wilson talking about the suicide thing. And he's mentioning, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I took too many pills and I drank some alcohol and my roadie's going to come get me. And it's not like a real suicide attempt. It was, in the nature of it, it was like he was just saying, like, Richie was trying to kill himself. It wasn't like a half-hearted thing. But he kind of played it off just, it's just a weird thing to kind of downplay suicide attempts of any kind.
It's not,
and then the fact that his brother does it later, you go, and then even that his brother wrote or helped write a thing with suicide. You're just kind of like, my brain. I'm a little freaked out by all these things.
Yeah, and
that shot in that song, and then his face right before.
Oh.
Somebody say, like, that is Royal Tenenbaums to me, is Richie looking in the mirror after he kind of shaved everything. And you go, yeah, like, it's intense and sad, and the blood running down his hands with the hair everywhere. It's such a powerful shot.
Well, and even when she says, too, like, did you do this because of me? And he's like, well, yeah, but it's not your fault. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Well, and then her reaction, which makes you want to cry because she cries. And you're like, oh my gosh.
It is crazy because that's one of the few times in a Wes Anderson movie where I thought it was going to be like jokey.
Yeah.
Until Gwyneth Paltrow broke. Until Gwyneth Paltrow did that, and then it was like, oh. It was honestly, that was one of the better movements. It was the more. It was such a nice cathartic moment as opposed to the usual dry humor and bury it. Because usually the humor, for better or for worse, which we like because we're all sickos, is
dark.
Bury the pain.
Yeah.
And the more horrible, the funnier.
Well,
it's kind of
when like Ethelene says later to Margot, "You smoke." I'm just like, well, I think you should quit.
Yes.
And then she tries.
Which is so funny. Yeah. It's so funny because that's one of those things where it's like, it's Wes Anderson-y in that, like, what an interesting reaction, but also in Angelica Houston's face is like, you should quit. Like, I don't want my daughter smoking.
Yeah.
It's this weird reaction. But then, to your point, Seth, like, they do, with Ben Stiller asking about the suicide note later, it is the dark comedy version. Like, well, of course it's dark. It's a suicide note. Like, that's played more for comedy.
Yeah.
But, but they do treat the suicide really, I think, sincerely in a way where you're like, oh, my gosh. Like,
Ben Stiller.
There's a lot going on in this movie.
Maybe this is just weird, but I feel like all the Ben Stiller movies are so still Ben Stiller. I'm like, this could be Walter Schmitty. This could be
Greenberg.
Walter Mitty, that's what it was. Thank you. This could be all of his, like, where he's, even when he's goofy, like, as, like, these Zoolander. It's just crazy because, like,
the Heartbreak Kid.
All of these things, I'm like, oh. Ben.
When he tells his dad he's had a rough year.
Oh, that's
another cry moment.
That's a great
I
moment.
feel like this, for me, it really is my favorite of his. I'm standing by this because I was like, do I like him more in Something About Mary? No, I think I like this. This is better.
Okay, what about Tropical Thunder?
Tropic Thunder?
No.
Okay. I think
Tropic Thunder is so funny, but way problematic. So problematic.
I think it knows how problematic it is. That makes it fine, right?
The point of it is that it's horrible. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Robert Downey Jr.
I'm a dude playing another dude pretending to be another dude.
Don't get me started about everything Ben Stiller does. Oh, it's the worst. Yes.
So good.
So, but I like Walter Mitty. I do like that movie. I like that
good.
movie. I think it's underrated.
Yeah.
I feel like it's underrated.
Like Everything Must Go kind of level.
You think
it
came on the heels of,
not
like,
even close. Its cinematography is gorgeous.
What's the Jim Carrey?
Liar, Liar.
No.
The Majestic.
Nope. The more trippy one. Why can't I remember the director's name?
Sunshine.
Eternal Sunshine of the
Spotless
Eternal
Mind.
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
That's
I feel
actually
like
good.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty is on the tails of like, well, Jim Carrey just did a really cerebral, fantastical drama.
Way better.
But I hate
And
to
then
say
it's
it,
like,
that
but that
one's way
movie's
snobbier.
great.
Yeah, for sure. And
Love
I
that
love
movie.
that movie,
Great movie.
but we're talking about the best of Ben Stiller here, not the best of
Sure.
not the better movie. I'm like, I'll give that, like, that's a better movie, but I still like Walter
Dodgeball.
Mitty. Yeah.
Right?
Can dodge
That's
a
our
wrench, you can
favorite
dodge a
Ben
ball.
Or
Yeah.
Fat Camp.
I've
Was that
never
the other
seen
one that I think
That's
Disney does not
funny.
play anymore?
Oh, that's
Yeah, they
so
don't.
funny. Oh, I gotta look that up. So we
What a
all
great movie.
realize that,
Pat's a genius. Pat's
Good
list
job,
is the best
Pat.
list.
you know,
Way to make it easy on
way
us
to
this
pick
week.
a moment for all the basic movie snobs to join you. Way to go. Like, we need an entry point for this podcast, and you gave them an entry point.
Hey,
Oh,
I'm here for you.
That's
yeah.
great.
You know,
Let's see what Seth
starting
throws at
Movie
us
Snobs.
next week.
It's
Is it
not-
my week next
also,
week?
It's
Sweet.
not Pat's 10 most snobby movies.
No, it's true.
It's Pat's 10 favorite.
When we watch Monty Python and Holy Grail next week, you guys are going to be really excited.
Oh, I would.
I would be
All day
excited.
long.
I know. I'm not sure if we should go. Should we go to that already?
Lovely filth
Well,
over here.
let's not give it away.
Let's not do
People
that. Okay, we're gonna have a surprise for next week, guys. Is Mariah? Does this make your top 10 after watching this?
Top 10
Thinking about
fave? It's a 20.
Okay,
I don't know
then
about
let me change the question. Is this your favorite Wes Anderson movie of all time?
Yeah, probably.
Dang it!
Yike.
I do love Life Aquatic, though.
I do love Life Aquatic. That's the.
Those two are
That's honestly
similar.
like the least critically liked.
yeah.
It's so
Maybe
funny.
Darjeeling Limited is.
No,
I don't know. I
Darjeeling
think actually
Limited
Life
is the
Aquatic. I
least.
I
think
think
people
I
didn't
just
like
like
as much.
Kate Blanchett so much.
I know. I don't know why
She's so
people
good.
hate her. Like
I
Life
love her.
Willem Dafoe is so
kills it in
good
that
in Life
movie.
Aquatic.
kills it in that movie.
Yeah, it's just a different cast, I think. So overall, it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah, I do think this is this is the Wes Anderson movie I introduced to people first. This
Yes.
is a good.
It's the best one
Honestly,
for that.
it's the best. Yeah, I also do think it's a good intro to what movies can be in a different style. It was such a breath of fresh air when it first came out, and so
Well, yeah,
I will
and
say
first of many that he went this way with.
yeah, is it his most Wes Anderson movie? No, we all agree with that. But it's the beginning of Wes Anderson coming into his own and being a very Wes.
Cool.
I
what
know. Yeah.
What a
Not
cool
snobby, but
thing
cool.
that this can exist in the milieu of cinema, right? Like, it's such a specific voice. Again, similar to like Tim Burton and some of these more like stylish or you know, I just love that can work in a way, and not that his movies make a ton of money, but they make enough, right? He does well enough that he gets to keep making more.
I would be interested in the economics of Wes Anderson because it doesn't seem
Money
to
Mariah
be
should have
box.
been on this.
It doesn't actually seem to be box office. It's
Guys,
got
I
to
gave
be
one number tonight. I
It's
can't do
got to be on the
more
end.
than
It's
one.
got to be on the DVD sales. It's got to be on the movie, like the tours
not
where he's
streaming anywhere.
speaking. Yeah, and this Criterion Collection. So he's able to keep it off of streaming. It's very crazy. Like, I don't know what he's doing, but he's able to keep
It's like
doing what he
playing
does.
hard to get.
Yeah.
Makes him cooler.
Maybe he's just like, you know what? No.
I don't know what the cost of the movie was, but it says the internet says it made $71 million.
Yeah. With a
I imagine it cost less.
21 million.
Which is
Good
so cheap for how pretty it
So
is.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
For how pretty it is, that's so impressive. It's so impressive for how pretty these things are, because they really are like each scene is a painting of something. Like it feels like
It's so
it feels like a hipster artwork every single scene, which is probably the point. So
good. Can I leave you with my one other thing I thought was adorable?
I'm sorry.
Was
we're
the
out of
name?
time.
Do you remember the
that's
name? The name of Henry Sherman's accounting book?
What? I forgot what it is.
Accounting for Everything. I just think that's so dumb and sweet.
Yeah, it is.
that's great. Guys, this has been a treat despite me being a curmudgeon, but I'm all in, as
But
you
he
can tell.
dressed for the part.
I still obviously love this movie. As
Yeah,
much as
obviously you hate it.
I feel it's hilarious. I'm the most into this podcast physically, but
In appearances.
but I was
Seth
the
looks
I was
like he's the
biggest.
most
I have.
You guys,
You have one book.
I have my stuff.
I have two books.
I
really
know.
And I have the Criterion collection, so I don't know, Pat. I feel like
This is the Criterion Collection of the movie, but it's a different box.
Your
It's not
box
the
is-
it's not the illustrated box. But
mine's
it does
the
say the
illustrated
Criterion.
box.
Well, his is from the library, Pat. Yours is in your
It's
library.
double. If folks don't remember,
Oh, it's the
things
same
used
one.
to come.
Yeah, so it's the same.
Just
same
a different
disc.
sleeve.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Which
I respect
Criterion
that.
does do the drawing versions, which would seem very appropriate for the Royal Tenenbaums,
It
but
does.
I don't have that one.
Well, there you go.
Go to the library.
Go to the library like I do. My name's Seth,
Mariah.
And Pat.
and we just went over the Royal Tenenbaums, Wes Anderson's first most barking. Okay, I
Yeah,
don't know if you'll hear that
apologies.
on the post. Anyways, this is like the beginning of Wes Anderson being Wes Anderson. Is it snobby? We're not sure, but it's an entry. It's an entry to snobbiness, folks. So if you're not sure if you want to be a snob, watch this movie and think, hey, maybe snobbery is for me. That's all for now, folks. We're out of here, and we'll see you next week. We already just said off, didn't we?
Yeah, we said our
And
names.
apparently, we're going to be a surprise movie for me.
We
next
need
week,
Alec
so-
Baldwin to narrate us out of this.
And he realized he said that already, and they moved on
Yeah.
And
from
couldn't
there.
figure out a way to get
Yeah.
out of the podcast.
And now we're going to end. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.